Whispers Across the Void, Part 1, Unwanted. Tribute. Diplomatic liaison Theron Vale receives an unexpected gift from the Corvesh. Dominion. A captive Nethari woman named Visenya with unusual abilities and a mysterious past. Part 2, Silent Revolution. As Theron and Visenya develop an unexpected connection, tensions rise when a plot against the human delegation is discovered, forcing Visenya to choose between her freedom and Theron's safety. Part 3, Shattered. Chains. When the Corvesh betray the peace talks, Visenya reveals her true capabilities, saving Theron but exposing herself to danger as they flee across hostile territory. Part 4, Echoes of Ancestry. While seeking sanctuary among the scattered Nethari resistance, Theron and Visenya discover ancient secrets about her people and a potential way to challenge the Dominion's power. Part 5, Starborn Alliance. Theron and Visenya unite human colonies and Nethari survivors against the Corvesh, forging not just a resistance, but a new future for both their peoples and for themselves. Part 1, Unwanted. Tribute. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Corvesh flagship gleamed with polished obsidian and pulsing blue light, making Theron Vale's gray suit look dull. By comparison, he maintained his composure despite the patronizing smiles from the reptilian Corvesh officials seated across from him. 6 months of negotiations had led to this moment, the first formal peace treaty between humans and the expansionist Corvesh. Dominion, we are pleased with your adequate presentation of terms, said Overseer Dravok, his scaled fingers tapping against the translucent table. As a gesture of our benevolence, we offer a tribute to seal our agreement. Theron tensed. This wasn't in the briefing. The door behind Dravok slid open, and 2 guards entered, flanking a slender figure. They pushed forward a woman, unlike any Theron had seen before. Her skin was the pale blue of distant nebulae, marked with iridescent patterns that shifted with her breathing. Her eyes were entirely silver, without pupils, yet somehow expressive in their sorrow. A neural dampener circled her throat, and her wrists bore the unmistakable marks of restraints. A Nethari, Dravak announced with cruel satisfaction. Once, they ruled a dozen systems. Now they serve. This one has unique sensitivities, useful for a man in your position. She is called Visenya. Theron's stomach turned. The United Earth Coalition doesn't accept sentient beings as property. Dravak's mouth twisted into what passed for a Corvesh smile. Reject our gift, and you reject the peace. Your colonies cannot withstand another season of our raids. Choose wisely, Diplomat Vale. The Nethari woman Visenya kept her gaze fixed on the floor, but Theron sensed something fierce beneath her submissive posture. He had studied the ancient Nethari civilization during his xenonthropology training, a species with remarkable empathic and psychic abilities, nearly extinct after centuries of Corvesh domination. I'll escort her personally, Theron said carefully, rising from his seat. Later, in the privacy of his quarters on the human vessel horizon, Theron immediately removed the neural dampener from Visenya's neck. She flinched away, silver eyes wide with suspicion. I'm not going to hurt you, he said, setting the device on a table. And I don't own you. You're free to go wherever you want, though I'm not sure how safe that would be right now. Visenya rubbed her neck, studying him with those disconcerting eyes. When she spoke, her voice was like wind through crystal. There is nowhere to go. My people are scattered across the stars. The few who remain free would never trust me after years in Corvesh captivity. Then stay as my guest, not a possession, Theron offered. Help me understand what game the Corvesh are playing. This peace treaty feels wrong. It is, she said. Simply, I can sense deception in them. They've given me to you because they believe humans are weak, too compassionate to use me as they did, too principled to truly benefit from my abilities. Theron leaned against his desk. And what abilities are those? A bitter smile crossed her blue lips. I can feel emotions, detect lies, and glimpse fragments of thought when I touch someone. The Corvesh used me to interrogate their enemies. They believe you'll either reject me and offend them, or keep me and reveal your hypocrisy. They don't understand humans very well then, Theron said. We've made terrible mistakes, but we learn from them. I have no intention of using you, or sending you away if that endangers you. For the first time, something like curiosity flickered in Visenya's silver gaze. You are ... unusual, Theron Vale. Just trying to be decent, he replied, offering her water, rest. Tomorrow we can figure out what the Corvesh are really planning, and how to keep both our people safe. As Visenya accepted the drink, their fingers brushed. She gasped softly, her eyes widening. Whatever she sensed in that moment, it left her staring at Theron with newfound wonder and the first faint spark of hope. Silent Revolution Horizon's observation deck offered an unparalleled view of the swirling nebula surrounding the neutral space station where peace negotiations continued. Visenya stood before the vast window, her blue skin reflecting the cosmic colors outside. 2 weeks had passed since Theron had removed her neural dampener, yet she remained cautious, speaking little. Commander Ellsworth wants to send you back, Theron said, joining her at the window. She thinks you're a spy. Visenya turned, silver eyes unblinking. And you? I think if you were spying, you'd try harder to gain my trust. He smiled slightly. You barely talk to me. Words are difficult after years of silence. Her voice remained melodic despite its rarity. The Corvesh punished communication. Theron's jaw tightened. I'm sorry for what they did to you. Your pity changes nothing. She touched the glass, tracing the outline of a distant star. But your kindness is ... unexpected. An alert chimed on Theron's unit. Another meeting with the Corvesh delegation in an hour. These negotiations had stretched far longer than anticipated, with the Dominion representatives constantly revising terms and demanding concessions. Will you come with me today? He asked. I could use your insight. Visenya hesitated. They would. See it as you using their gift as intended. Or they'd see it as me treating you as an equal advisor. Your choice, though. Her lips curved in the ghost of a smile. You continue to surprise me, Theron Vale. Later, as they walked the pristine corridors of the space station, Visenya moved closer to Theron. The guards at the third junction, she whispered. They are not station security. Their emotions are ... anticipatory, hungry. Theron casually glanced toward the uniformed men. Their insignias looked correct, but something about their posture seemed off. Corvesh agents? Yes, there are others too. Scattered throughout. Her fingers brushed his wrist. They planned something today. Before Theron could respond, his unit buzzed again. Commander Ellsworth's voice came through, tense and clipped. Vale, get back to the ship. Negotiations are suspended. What happened? 2 of our junior diplomats were found dead in their quarters. Poisoned. Theron felt Visenya stiffen beside him. We're heading back now, he replied, cutting the connection and pulling Visenya down a side passage. It's beginning, she said. The Corvesh never intended peace. They sought to learn your defenses, study your responses. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with Overseer Dravik and 4 guards. The Corvesh official's eyes narrowed at the sight of Visenya without restraints. Diplomat Vale, he hissed. I see our gift has ... integrated well, though it appears you've removed her necessary controls. She doesn't need controlling, Theron replied evenly. What happened to our diplomats, Dravik? A tragic accident, I'm sure. The Overseer's scales shifted color slightly. Perhaps your species has unknown allergies to local provisions. Visenya stepped forward. He lies. I can feel his satisfaction. He ordered their deaths. Dravak's expression hardened. The creature speaks out of turn. Perhaps we should reclaim her, as you clearly cannot manage her properly. She's not yours. To reclaim, Theron said, subtly positioning himself between Visenya and the Corvish. And she's right, isn't she? This was never about peace. Peace is coming, Dravak replied coldly. After your inevitable surrender, seize them both. The guards moved forward, but Visenya was faster. She pressed her hand to Theron's arm, and suddenly he could feel her presence in his mind, not invasive, but supportive, guiding. 3 steps back, door to your left. Code is 7291. Theron followed her mental instructions without hesitation, pulling her with him. They slipped through the door, just as energy weapons discharged, where they had stood seconds before. How did you... I glimpsed it in the guard's mind, she explained as they raced through the maintenance corridor. They intend to capture all human representatives and force terms of surrender. Alarms began blaring throughout the station. Theron's COMM unit lit up with emergency protocols. We need to warn the others. Visenya stopped suddenly, grabbing his arm. There's another way. She closed her silver eyes, her face intense with concentration. You're Commander Ellsworth. Picture her clearly in your mind. Confused but trusting, Theron focused on his commanding officer's face. Visenya's hand tightened on his arm, and he felt a strange sensation, like a current passing through them both. She knows now, Visenya whispered, her voice strained. I projected the danger through our connection. It's a Nethari ability few remember we possess. Theron stared at her in amazement. You could have used these abilities before. Why didn't you? Her silver eyes met his. Because you gave me a choice. No one has done that in a very long time. As they continued their escape toward the docking bay, Theron realized something fundamental had shifted between them. In the midst of betrayal and danger, an unexpected trust had formed, a silent revolution against everything the Corvesh believed about both their species. Shattered chains, the escape pod tumbled through the asteroid field surrounding Outpost Vega, its stabilizers damaged from Corvesh weapons fire. Inside, Theron worked frantically to maintain their trajectory, while Visenya pressed her hands against the viewport, her silver eyes distant with concentration. Another patrol vessel approaching from Sector 4, she warned, her blue skin pulsing with faint bioluminescence, a Nethari stress response Theron had never seen before. They haven't detected us yet, but they will soon. The pod's cloaking won't hold much longer, Theron muttered, fingers dancing across the navigation panel. We need somewhere to hide until the horizon can find us. 3 days had passed since their flight from the space station. The Corvesh had launched a surprise attack on the human delegation, capturing several diplomats and destroying 2 support vessels. Only Commander Ellsworth's swift response, thanks to Visenya's psychic warning, had prevented complete disaster. The Horizon had managed to escape, but Theron and Visenya had been cut off from the main evacuation, forced to flee in an undersupplied escape pod. There, Visenya suddenly pointed toward a large, irregular asteroid. I sense no life forms, but there's an artificial structure inside. Old mining facility, perhaps? Theron raised an eyebrow. You can sense that from here? My abilities have been returning, without the dampener. A faint smile touched her lips. Freedom has its benefits. They managed to dock the pod in a concealed crevice within the asteroid. The abandoned facility was cold and dark, but its basic life support systems still functioned on emergency power. As Theron salvaged supplies from storage lockers, Visenya explored the control room, her fingers lightly tracing dust-covered consoles. This was a Nethari outpost, she said quietly. Before the Corvesh came, these markings, they're in my people's script. Theron joined her, examining the elegant, flowing symbols. Can you read it? Parts. Much knowledge was lost during our subjugation. Her silver eyes clouded. This was a research facility studying interstellar phenomena. My people were scientists and artists before we became slaves. You never were a slave, Theron said firmly. Not in spirit. Visenya turned to face him, her expression unreadable. Why do you care what happens to me, Theron Vale? I've brought you nothing but trouble. Your career is likely ruined. My career was about building bridges between species, he replied with a wry smile. I'd say we're doing that, just not how I expected. Before she could respond, a proximity alarm blared from their pod's communicator. Theron rushed to check it, his expression darkening. Koresh boarding party. They must have tracked our ion trail. Visenya's face hardened. How many? At least 6 signatures. Heavy weapons. He began gathering their meager supplies. We need to move deeper into the facility. Find another way out. No. Visenya stood perfectly still, something ancient and terrible awakening in her silver gaze. I'm tired of running. Visenya, we're outnumbered and outgunned. Do you trust me? She interrupted, holding out her hand. After only a moment's hesitation, Theron took it. Her skin was cool against his, but a warmth seemed to flow between them, a connection deeper than physical touch. Yes, he said simply, then stay behind me. They positioned themselves near the airlock where the Corvesh would enter. Theron had only a standard-issue blaster, while Visenya stood unarmed, her eyes closed in concentration. When the airlock hissed open and the first Corvesh soldier stepped through, Theron raised his weapon, but never got the chance to fire. Visenya's eyes snapped open, blazing with silver light. She raised her hands, and the impossible happened. The lead soldier froze mid-step, then was lifted off his feet and hurled back into his companions with tremendous force. The air around Visenya seemed to ripple with energy as she stepped forward, her movements fluid and precise. The Corvesh took everything from my people, she said, her voice resonating with power. They bound our minds, silenced our voices, and told the galaxy we were meant to serve. 2 more soldiers rushed forward. With a gesture, their weapons flew from their hands, disassembling midair into component parts that clattered harmlessly to the floor. They made us forget what we were, Visenya continued, advancing as the Corvesh retreated in confusion and fear. But I remember now. The remaining soldiers fired desperately, but their energy blasts dissipated before reaching her, absorbed into the shimmering field surrounding her body. Theron watched in awe as Visenya, without touching a single Corvesh, systematically incapacitated the entire boarding party through telekinetic force. When it was over, 6 unconscious Corvesh soldiers lay on the ground. Visenya stood among them, her blue skin glowing brightly, her silver eyes gradually returning to normal. Then suddenly, she swayed and began to fall. Theron rushed forward, catching her before she hit the ground. Visenya, are you all right? She looked up at him, exhaustion evident in her face. Using these abilities after so long takes a toll. Her voice was barely above a whisper. They will wake soon. We must take their vessel. As Theron helped her toward the Corvesh shuttle, she leaned heavily against him. Why didn't you tell me you could do that? He asked. I didn't know I still could, she admitted. The Corvesh used neural suppressants for generations. Many Netheri were born, lived, and died never knowing their true capabilities. Her silver eyes met his. But something about you, your mind, your energy, it helped me remember. Where do we go now? Theron asked as they boarded the shuttle. Visenya's expression became determined. There are others like me, hidden, scattered. If the Corvesh have broken the peace, then it's time my people remembered who they truly are. As the stolen shuttle pulled away from the asteroid, Theron realized the balance of power had fundamentally shifted. The chains that had bound Visenya and through her The memory of her people's strength had finally shattered. Echoes of ancestry, the crimson moons of Talaris cast an eerie glow across the hidden valley where Theron and Visenya had found sanctuary. For 3 weeks, they had traveled through the most remote regions of the sector, evading Corvesh patrols, and following cryptic coordinates that Visenya had discovered within the abandoned research station's database. Their stolen shuttle was now camouflaged beneath the canopy of massive, phosphorescent trees that dominated the landscape. Nearby, partially embedded in a hillside, stood an ancient structure unlike anything Theron had seen before. Its walls seemed to shift between solid matter and translucent energy, adorned with the same flowing script they had discovered on the asteroid. This was once a Netheri meditation temple, Visenya explained as they approached the entrance. One of many sacred sites lost when the Corvesh invaded our homeworlds. You think others of your kind are hiding here? Theron asked, noting the perfectly preserved state of the structure despite centuries of abandonment. I sense presences, she confirmed, her silver eyes scanning the surroundings. Watching. Wary. Since her display of power against the Corvesh boarding party, Visenya had changed. She stood taller, spoke more confidently, and the patterns on her blue skin glowed with increasing regularity. The submissive captive was vanishing, revealing the person she might have been without generations of oppression. At the temple entrance, Visenya placed her palm against a seemingly ordinary section of wall. The surface rippled at her touch, and symbols illuminated beneath her fingers. They've maintained the biometric safeguards, she murmured. Only Nethari can enter. She turned to Theron with an apologetic expression. I must go alone first. They won't trust a human. Theron nodded, though the thought of separation made him uneasy. I'll wait here. Visenya hesitated, then did something unexpected. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead gently against his. Nethari gesture of affection and trust he recognized from his studies. A brief contact sent a warm current through his mind, a wordless reassurance. I'll return for you, she promised before stepping through the rippling doorway, which solidified behind her. Hours passed. Theron paced outside the temple, watching the alien forest grow more luminescent as night deepened. He was considering whether to attempt entry himself when the doorway finally shimmered open again. Visenya emerged, but not alone. Behind her walked 7 Nethari of varying ages, their blue skin bearing different pattern configurations. Unlike Visenya, several had hair in shades of copper and violet, and their silver eyes regarded Theron with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. This is Elder Talaris. Visenya introduced an older female whose skin bore intricate geometric patterns. She leads what remains of the Nethari conclave. The elder stepped forward, studying Theron intently. Visenya has shared your mind with us, Theron Vale, an unusual human who views a Nethari as an equal. Not just equal, Theron replied. Remarkable. A flicker of approval crossed the elder's face. Come, there is much to discuss. Inside, the temple revealed its true nature, a vast complex of chambers extending deep into the hillside, illuminated by the same organic light that emanated from Nethari skin. Dozens more Nethari moved about, some practicing telekinetic abilities similar to what Visenya had demonstrated. Others studying ancient texts or tending to hydroponic gardens. We are all that remain of the original conclave, Elder Talaris explained, as they entered a circular chamber dominated by a holographic star map. 217 survivors maintaining our ways in secret while our people suffer in bondage. Why haven't you tried to free them? Theron asked. A younger male Netheri named Jovan answered bitterly. What could so few do against the Dominion? We've spent generations merely surviving. That time has ended, Visenya declared, stepping into the center of the chamber. The Corvesh have broken their treaty with humans. War has returned to the sector. We must seize this opportunity. Elder Teleris gestured toward a crystalline pedestal. Show them what you discovered, Visenya. With reverent care, Visenya placed her hands on the crystal. It responded immediately, projecting images of an artifact that resembled a crown or diadem of flowing metallic tendrils. The mind crown of Therivan, she explained. Our people's greatest creation, a psychic amplifier that once connected all Netheri consciousness together. The Korvesh believed they destroyed it during the final battle for our whole world. But they only captured a replica, Elder Teleris continued. The true mind crown was hidden. Its location passed down through select bloodlines, scattered across the stars. Theron studied the projection. And you think this device could unite your people? Help them remember their abilities like you did? More than that, Visenya said, her silver eyes bright with purpose. It could break every neural dampener in Korvesh territory simultaneously. Imagine thousands of Netheri awakening to their true power at once. The implications were staggering. Theron had witnessed what a single unbounded Nethari could do against Korvesh forces. Thousands would change the balance of power throughout the sector. Where is it? He asked. The clues in our records point Vornalis, Elder Teleris replied. A dead world the Korvesh stripped of resources and abandoned centuries ago. Also heavily patrolled, Joven added grimly. They maintain automated security systems across the entire planet. Visenya turned to Theron. Your human coalition has ships, weapons. If we could forge an alliance. The coalition is scattered after the Korvesh attack, Theron reminded her. But Commander Ellsworth would listen. She knows what you did to save us. A wave of murmurs passed through the gathered Netheri. Many still looked skeptical about trusting humans. There's something else you should know, Visenya said quietly to Theron, guiding him toward a smaller side chamber where a single crystalline pod stood. Inside the pod, suspended in luminescent fluid, floated what appeared to be a Nethari infant. Its tiny form not yet showing the characteristic patterns of adult skin. One of our geneticists managed to create a new generation, Visenya explained, her voice thick with emotion. But the infant's neural pathways are unstable. Without the mind crown to guide its developing abilities, it may not survive. And there are others like this one, waiting to be born. Theron placed his hand against the pod's surface. This isn't just about freedom for your people. It's about their future. Yes, Visenya agreed, her fingers intertwining with his. And perhaps about something more. The Korvesh fear both our species for the same reason: our capacity to evolve, to adapt, to form bonds they cannot understand. As they stood together before the embodiment of Nethari hope, Theron recognized a truth that had been growing since Visenya first touched his mind. Their connection transcended circumstance or gratitude. In the echo of her people's ancient power, something new was taking form, a bond that neither Korvesh chains nor neural dampeners could ever have suppressed. We'll find the mind crown, he promised. Together. Visenya's response wasn't in words, but in the sudden brightening of the patterns across her skin, a visual language of emotion that Theron was only beginning to understand, yet somehow instinctively knew expressed the same feeling growing within his own heart. Starborn Alliance, the battle for Vornalis, raged across both space and surface. 12 coalition ships engaged the Korvesh fleet, while Theron, Visenya, and a small team infiltrated the ruins of an ancient Nethari temple. After fighting through automated defenses, they reached the sacred chamber where the mind crown, a psychic amplifier capable of awakening all Nethari, simultaneously had remained hidden for centuries. Once activated, there's no turning back, Visenya warned, holding the flowing metal circlet. Every Nethari in Korvesh territory will awaken at once. Their cones crackled. Multiple Korvesh dropships inbound. We can't hold them much longer. With resolute determination, Visenya placed the mind crown on her head. It came alive, metallic tendrils intertwining with her neural pathways. Her eyes blazed silver as patterns across her blue skin ignited like constellations. Through their neural link, Theron experienced a fraction of the overwhelming consciousness flowing through her. Generations of memories and knowledge thought lost forever. "I see them all, Theron," she whispered, her voice seeming to come from everywhere at once. "Every Nethari, everywhere." Their awakening. Above them, the battle shifted dramatically. Across the Corvesh fleet, Nethari slaves broke free of their conditioning as the psychic wave spread through subspace. The coalition forces, prepared for this moment, launched extraction missions to key worlds as they fled the temple. A Corvesh blast caused a cave-in that separated Theron from the others. Pinned beneath debris and bleeding, he shouted for Visenya to save herself and the mind crown. Instead, he felt her presence intensify in his mind. The rebels shifted as her telekinetic power focused on freeing him. "I won't leave you," her voice echoed in his thoughts. "Not now, not ever." 6 months later, representatives from 17 human colonies and the re-established Nethari conclave gathered on Unity Station to formalize their alliance. Before the ceremony, Visenya found Theron. "In the observation dome, the elders have concerns about our bond," she said, taking his hand. "Nothing like it exists in our history. They're worried about a human influencing Nethari decisions. They're worried about what our children might become," she corrected gently. "Neither fully human nor fully Nethari." Visenya placed his hand against her abdomen, where the faintest new pattern had begun to form beneath her skin. "The Corvesh feared our species for a reason. Separately, we were dangerous to their dominion. Together, we might reshape the stars themselves." In that moment, looking into the silver eyes of the woman who had once been called a gift, but who had given him so much more in return, Theron knew their journey was just beginning. Beyond the viewport, a new star system beckoned, one where both their peoples could start again, not as separate species, but as something unique and powerful.